Live from the Washington, D.C. area, all empowered citizens need to know about intelligent use of resources, smart governance, inclusive communities, smart industry, and healthy, thriving urbanization. This is Smart Sustainability, the TV talk about shaping a sustainable future in the digital age. Welcome back to Smart Sustainability. This is the fourth segment of our show tonight and the second round of conversations in our Rising Above Race series towards building inclusive communities. I'm Nicolette DeVidar. Thanks for joining us tonight. So in this last segment, we talked about housing issues. We talked about how race is still prevalent in certain areas of the housing, but it turned out also that most of it is affected by income, which brings me right now in the last segment to jobs. We do want to talk about the discrepancy in income, and is this kind of affecting mainly people of color, or are there other areas we need to look into? So you work as an executive recruiter. What are the trends there?
There are some trends there. Let me say, however, I need to qualify this. The best of the best don't have to worry about it. If you excel at your trade, then you're going to be accepted, and regardless of color or gender or race. But in that middle section of employment, in the middle of the bell curve, there's all kinds of discrimination that takes place. The most noted is gender, the gender gap. There's a huge gap between what men make and what women make. Part of that is historical, because they've earned less. Employers feel like they can pay them less.
Because it goes back to the salary question. What were you making previously? It's time to ban this question from interviewers.
Which is illegal in a number of states. I think New York led the way. And a number of the larger employers have forbidden that question.
That's right.
But it's still very real. And there's levels of discrimination in employment, and sometimes we have a way of defining a minority. In today's market, there's still some of the gender discrepancy, but there's as an equal amount of I'll call it foreign discrepancy. Right now.
What do you mean by that?
If someone is of Indian descent, they have a tougher time getting a job, and they identify them by seeing. You read the name and they can tell. Boy, we were taught that if you're going to compete in this market, you can't be equal to your white counterpart. You got to be better than.
Yes,
that was part of the culture. You know, if it's you and a white guy of equal talent, white guy's going to get the job. Well, we've overcome that to some. To some degree, but we have other minorities that have become that targeted group. Indian folk, Hispanic folk, anyone who's not, Joe Apple Pie, I love baseball American, they get discriminated against. And there's a trickle down.
Worse targeted in the job market than African Americans are?
I won't say they're worse, but my feeling is if anyone is discriminated against, everyone is discriminated against. So wherever it occurs, it's wrong. And if we are tolerant of that attitude, it's going to happen at some level. So it's a mindset. And so we do have to rise above race. It's interesting that in some of these mid-level jobs, they're not accepted. But when you go to the doctor, you get an Indian doctor, you want him to make you well, to take care of me now.
Exactly.
And so we have to overcome those stereotypes, and we have to overcome our prejudices, and we have to, first of all, acknowledge that they're there, and they're there.
What about age?
Age discrimination is awful.
It's awful.
It's awful.
I kind of felt that.
Don't do that.
Hey, I'm putting it out there.
And here's how they find out. If they don't ask for your date of birth, they want to find out what year you completed your undergrad degree. They subtract 18 and they know. Now, part of that.
I thought about that.
But part of that issue is if you are a more mature person and you've worked and you've earned a lot of money in the past, if it's a low-level job or a mid-level job, they know they're going to have to pay you more. So part of it is in the economics, and part of it is in the ability to do some things. A younger person, can do different things than an older person.
True.
If it's a mental job, then you want the more savvy person. But if it's a physical job, you want the guy that's 18.
But let me ask you something. So, how do you know that there's very often, I mean, I see this a lot, kind of like in working with people, with staff, with employees. So very often there is an automatic disposition, I want to say sort of like a mindset, as you say, kind of to think that whenever something happens that may not be so positive on you, whether this is like a denied promotion or whether this is something where maybe you didn't get the job or so, that there is very often still an automatic mechanism almost to say, well, is this because, of race, or is this because I'm a woman, or is this because, for whatever reason? Why do we always automatically think or go into this way of thinking to kind of deduct that and conclude that, well, because something happened, this can only be something that you can't see? Where is that automatism?
That's a very negative mindset. When someone gets a promotion, they never say, I got promoted because I'm a majority. I got promoted because I'm a man.
That's right.
But when we don't get the promotion, when we get a negative turnout, we don't want to accept that accountability, that personal accountability that suggests maybe I wasn't good enough, or maybe that other person was sharper, or maybe they came to work on time every day, and maybe they did everything right.
So it's a lack of accountability.
Yeah, we don't want to accept the fact that maybe it was up to me and I can do better. We need to accept the fact that if there's competition, someone's going to win, and someone's going to lose.
So let me ask you a question. And we earned $7 million, but I didn't get promoted.
You just had a bad employer. The best of the best will do what they're supposed to do, but in every organization, because there are people there, you have the opportunity for that to occur. But we don't want to be a people where we are relying on race as an excuse to justify what did not happen. Now, does it happen? It does. Yeah. But we've got to get above that and realize that you can work your way through or start your own.
A lot of jobs that I've had where I was actually the first black person that I hired. So I never saw race for me as a problem in keeping me from something, but I've also am an analyst by nature, so I analyze everything, and that comes from being bullied most of my life. So I want to know the threat and where it's coming from and how to avoid it. So, but on the other levels, I thought that there were other things that were actually, the reasons why I didn't get that.
Black manager to win the employee of the year. We went to New York, and so the guys around say, "Hey, you're the first black guy." It's like, no, I'm just first. Don't base it on my race. Base it on my numbers. And so we've got to be accountable to the point that we're not relying on race. Can race be an issue? Yes, but we've got to get above that.
So I think that's a really important point, because I think the accountability is something that is totally overlooked. Because when you think about it, if we take a position, and everyone takes a position, where you really kind of you take personal accountability and personal responsibility for whatever the outcome is.
Right.
Everyone starts looking inward, which then should automatically take this boundary away, this finger pointing and blaming someone else. Because whenever you blame someone else, this is kind of like you give your power away.
Yeah,
versus
as my mother
taking
would
it
say,
yourself.
You've got one finger pointed that way and three fingers pointed back at yourself.
So what needs to happen? What other things need to happen to kind of move above race? Accountability is one thing. What else?
We've got to, once again, grasp our moral thermostat and raise it. In a perfect sense, there's but one race. And that's the human race.
That's right. That's right.
And God made us, and He made us all in His image. And if we focus on that and realize that what's going to move us forward is not our differences, but our commonalities.
Yes.
You know, the country is coming together now in a way that we haven't since 9/11, and it's because of the catastrophe that we're dealing with right now.
Right.
And you know, once we focus on unity and commonality, we will move forward and go far beyond race.
We do, and just as we have this all going on with the coronavirus, that's exactly the time again where we kind of need to rise above and all stand together.
Agreed.
That's it for tonight. Thanks for watching. Next week we start a series of conversations on how future ready we are in going forward. So please join us next Sunday at 6:30, and if you're interested in certain topics, you can go to our Facebook page and suggest some or engage. Thanks so much for watching tonight. We'll see you next week.